What's the weirdest thing you've done as a result of social anxiety? Oh boy, I was at the mall, not intending to spend much money at all. I was by myself, and I tried to avoid all of those annoying mall salesmen that desperately try to bring you over to their booths. Well, I looked at one of the man, ended up spending over $100 on a nail kit because I was too anxious to say no. My friends think him an idiot. Honestly, I couldn't agree more. A school friend of mine had invited me to a party at his house. The only person I knew there was him, and 2 other people from my school I was not at the best of terms with. The party was taking place at the roof of his house, and it had an open setup with a small room which contained a bed and a TV. I was tasked with bringing a console for the party and setting it up in that room. When I went in, I realized that the TV can't be connected due to lack of an HDMI port. However, at that moment, I heard music and hooting. The worst of my fears had come true. People were dancing in a circle and everyone was being pushed into it one by one. So, naturally I stayed in that small room for the remainder of the party. Around 1.5 hours. When entering a public restroom, if there already happens to be somebody in there, I'll wash my hands uselessly until they leave. If somebody else walks in before, or just as they leave, I generally decide I don't really need to be there and live that stomach busting hell until I can find another restroom to start the process all over again. When I started high school, I used to hide behind a vending machine during lunch because I didn't know anyone. A few days later, I noticed someone else hiding behind the vending machine right across from me. We became friends shortly after. Asked a worker in the mall for assistance the other day. She looked at me really weird and said she didn't work there. I internally freaked out. I said I know and asked if she could still help. She agreed and turned around to walk in the direction I needed help, facing away from me, and I immediately power walked out of there. One time I was leaving a party and I turned my car right instead of left. To avoid looking like an idiot and turning around, I just went with it and ended up in traffic for about 2 hours. In middle school, I'd give lunch money to a friend and ask her to bring my tray to me so I didn't have to walk through the lunchroom. I'd also ask people to take my tray back for me once finished eating. Even worse than that, in 3rd grade I got super nervous when people would see me eat. I also had a fear of choking, so I'd only eat ketchup packets. I always loved ketchup, and I guess it was a way to get some sort of salty flavor that reminded me of food without actually eating anything solid. People would give me their ketchup packets and I'd eat like 10 or more at lunchtime, and that was it. If we had something good, I'd sneak it in my pocket, and once back inside the classroom, I'd sneak it into my backpack and eat it at home that day. For some reason, my fear of choking was much smaller at home. I was an odd kid. Thankfully my social anxiety is a pretty small factor in my life now, although anything is small compared to that, I guess. Lol. One time I was with my girlfriend my senior year of high school and we were just cuddling in my room. And I got a really bad anxiety attack, so I went to my bathroom and just sat in there and tried to calm down, and I had to text my parents to go up to my room and tell my girlfriend to go home. Lol, I felt so embarrassed, it was awful. I recently moved to a new city and there's a Subway across the street from my complex. I decided to go there for dinner and wanted to get a footlong for that night and another one for tomorrow. Except I'm a big guy, they wouldn't believe I wouldn't eat them both in one sitting. So being the idiot I ordered one for me and had my phone out pretending to get an order from my brother. Pretty sure they knew. Pretty sure they judged. Joke's on me though, I ate them both in one sitting anyways. Ate 2 meals in a row. I was super hungry and had no self-control, so I ate a meal 1 hour before I met up with friends for supper. Then I felt silly and didn't want to be the only one who didn't order food, so I forced a second meal down. There was a car full of 5 guys on the highway next to me. We were the only 2 cars on the road at the time, going the same speed. One of the guys in the back noticed me, then commented to the other guys to look over too. So, they're talking and laughing and waving, pretending to clench their chests and whatnot. I was so flustered by the attention that I didn't realize that I was slowly drifting my car into their lane until I inadvertently ran them off the road. I'll never forget the looks on their faces as they changed from amusement to sheer terror. It was part, "Is this a joke?" Then, "What the hell is she doing?" mixed with, "Oh my god, we are gonna die." I couldn't stop it though. I was no longer in control. My shyness was. Another time, I was coming down the steps at my university when a guy at the bottom of the stairs said loudly to his friend, "Hey, isn't that the girl you're in love with from our class?" So the guys are laughing and looking in my direction, drawing even more attention. I proceeded to turn bright red, get super nervous, and fall down the concrete stairs. Every single one. A friend in high school had a crush on one of the librarians, but was far too awkward to talk to them normally, so he would go through the library and pick out books that he thought would impress her. But once he got to the checkout counter, he'd get all choked up and shy and never get past a year. Not me, but something I saw today and see a lot in general on public transport. Guy gets on the bus, sees that every bench already has one person on it. Not a big deal. They're built for 2 people, and while everyone likes their space, we also understand that it's an inevitability that when the bus gets full, it's not a big deal to sit next to a stranger for 10 minutes. Not this guy. Walks the length of the bus to check for an empty, then returns to the middle doorway and chooses to stand there for the entire trip, 40 minutes that I was on. Even when someone got off, he slowly looked at the newly emptied bench but remained standing, glancing back at it every so often. I knew exactly what he's thinking. Will people judge me for sitting down on my own now, after standing for so long? Yeah, better stay standing, so it looks intentional, like I want to be standing. No, you idiot, that's what's making me judge you. Just sit down and be comfortable. Literally no one cares. Not even uncommon. I see similar behavior weekly. Edit. For the folks saying "but you cared, that's why we are anxious." I only remember this guy because he stuck to the awkward behavior. If he'd just sat down like a normie, I'd have already forgotten him. He created what he was anxious about by being anxious about it. It's like a dog biting you because it can sense you're afraid of being bitten. I'll admit the reason I pick up on this behavior is because I used to suffer from regular anxiety, but I recovered when I progressively realized that 9/10 times it was just me being in my own head causing the problems. Nobody really gives a damn what I'm doing. And 30 seconds after I leave, everyone who saw me has already forgotten I existed. I was in a grad school interview, and I was scheduled to meet with a particular professor for 30 minutes. We ran out of things to talk about after about 20 minutes. I'm not good at making eye contact, but confident people make a lot of eye contact, right? So I continued to make eye contact with the professor for about a minute with no words being said, constantly thinking, don't break eye contact. What should I say? Don't break eye contact. This is horrible. Until I came up with something meaningless to say. Oh, I've got one for this. So first of all, you have to understand my anxiety is super bad. I've gotten much better in the last year, but I'm still not great now. So I was awful back when this happened. A few years ago, I was visiting my GF in college for the weekend. Her first year, I was a senior in high school. Anyways, we'd been having fun that day, getting slurpees from the neighboring 7-Eleven. Other fun. Wink. As the day went on though, she had class, and I elected to stay in her room and hang. Now, she had a single dorm, but how that works is there's this shared living room thing connecting several individual rooms, so you sorta halfway have roommates, and there's a shared, multi-toilet bathroom connected to the main room too. Anyway, sitting in the room for hours, her art class was really long, I eventually needed to pee, but all of the other occupants were hanging out and talking loudly in the main room. I was way too scared to go through them to the bathroom without my GF, as it felt awkward to have some rando walk through. I tried to wait, but it went on for 2 hours before I couldn't hold it. I freaked out and decided to pee into my empty Slurpee cup, fill it with tissues so it couldn't spill out, put it by my GF's trash, and get rid of it later. That being said, I was beyond embarrassed and really upset, and in my freak out began to cry out of emotional overload and shame. So eventually she comes back to find me on the floor, crying of shame, with a Slurpee cup full of tissues and pee. Luckily she gets it and felt super bad for me, cause she's the greatest. Was in a vitamin store with my cousins, and I was thinking we are just browsing, and we are just perusing, and the guy working the store asked how we were doing, and in total panic I like half screamed we are just bruising with a giant smile on my face. He looked really uncomfortable and shuffled away. I haven't gone back into that store since.